Hello everyone, it's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer, and I'm here to review Absolution. And this is a new crime drama starring Liam Neeson from director Hans-Peter Moland, who previously directed Neeson in Cold Pursuit, one of his more interesting recent efforts. And this is from writer Tony Gayton, who wrote Faster, starring Dwayne Johnson, and worked on one of the creators on Hell's on Wheels. And this film focuses on an aging gangster who's dealing with CTE, slowly losing his memory, is trying to reconnect with his children, developing a relationship with this woman who's new in his life, and also, still trying to do his job being muscle for the mob. And this, I'm not going to try to argue that this is the freshest, newest, crime drama you're going to find. But what I argue is that this film provides Liam Neeson a lot to sink his teeth into. There's a lot of struggle here. There's a lot of frustration. This is a very, traditionalistic masculine man who's being put into a situation where he has to redefine the life around him. He's an alcoholic. He's losing his memory. He's trying to reconnect with his children. His daughter wants nothing to do with him. You have this woman who happens to come into his life who's full of trauma herself and grief, played by Yolanda Ross. And their dynamic is engaging, but it's where Neeson is vulnerable and frustrated and angry and scared. Those are the moments where you really see him getting a chance to act. He isn't doing tough guy Mills from Taken kind of performance here. This is much more layered. And, it has bits of that noirish feel from the voiceover at the very beginning, setting the stage that he had a toxic father who didn't really set a good example for him, and blah blah blah, trauma. And even his daughter brings up, hey, we have this curse of asshole dads everywhere. And Neeson gives a fantastic performance. I really like Ross's performance, and I think they had great chemistry. She brings a lot of vulnerability to her character too, a lot of charm. Ron Perlman is the head of this mafia that Liam Neeson's a part of, and he has some inspired moments. He's not on screen a whole lot, but they have one particular interaction that really shows how much the veteran presence of actors can go in terms of nailing something. There's a couple of children characters in the film. Frankie Shaw and Daniel Dimer play Neeson and Perlman's children respectively. I don't think they're the most dynamic or interesting of performances, but you do have some really strong performances along the way here. There's some storylines that I think that feel like they're just added threads in there. But in general, I think most of the story is very familiar. It's here's a checklist of things that a movie like this should have, and it does all of them. And it's not going to surprise you. It's very cliched. It can be contrived. But there's some inspired filmmaking by Moland in this film. And whether it's how the camera moves, how there's one particular moment where Neeson's having this moment in his sleep connecting with his father. And it's an inspired, interesting kind of sequence, but it's really well shot. And this film is well blocked and framed. Everything feels so intentional. And it's a pretty impressive film in terms of it from a filmmaking standpoint. There feels like there's a vision there. And that vision and the themes that it's trying to tackle in terms of redemption and, revenge and aging and generational trauma, that adds layers. It goes a long way. And the strong performances, especially from Neeson, go a long way in making this a worthwhile experience. Like I said, this is not the freshest, newest feeling movie, but it has an old school feel to it, and it has some impact. and it has a really strong performance from Liam Neeson, and it's certainly worth a watch. But those are my thoughts on Absolution. Let me know what you think, and let's talk some movies. But thank you as always for tuning in and supporting your Wasteland Reviewer.